A cold wind whispered through the towering pines of Silver Pine Forest, rustling the dry leaves that carpeted the forest floor. The late afternoon sun filtered weakly through the dense canopy, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the underbrush. Deep within this silent, sprawling woodland, a small group of rough-looking men moved with hurried steps, their voices low and harsh as they carried out a grim task. A battered crate lay abandoned at the edge of a narrow clearing. The men tossed a trembling bundle from the crate onto the mossy ground. A dog, thin and shivering, its coat matted with grime and scars that told tales of hardship and neglect. The animal's eyes, wide with fear, flicked over its surroundings as it tried to make sense of its sudden desertion. The men exchanged curt words, their tone dripping with menace, before disappearing back into the shadows of the trees, leaving the dog alone and vulnerable. The dog's body quivered as it tried to steady itself, the cold biting through its ragged fur. It whimpered softly, ears pinned back and tail tucked, every muscle tense, ready to flee at the slightest hint of danger. The forest, usually a place of calm and refuge, now felt like an endless labyrinth of threats and uncertainty. The dog's fate seemed sealed in those dark woods, forgotten, forsaken, and left to fend for itself. Not far from the clearing, on a well-worn trail winding through the woods, Jake Mercer moved with deliberate ease. A Navy SEAL recently returned from deployment, Jake had traded the chaos of combat zones for the quiet solitude of Silver Pine. His strong frame was clad in hiking gear, worn boots crunching softly over leaves and twigs. His dark eyes, sharp and observant, scanned the environment with the precision of a seasoned soldier, attuned to every sound and shift in the wind. Jake's love for the outdoors was more than a hobby. It was a lifeline. The forest had become his sanctuary, a place where he could shed the weight of war and reconnect with a world untouched by the violence he had witnessed. Today, the air was crisp and cool, a welcome relief from the stifling heat of the city. As he made his way deeper into Silver Pine, he took in the familiar sights: the towering evergreens, the faint scent of pine resin, the distant call of a wood thrush. His pace slowed when he noticed something out of place: a cluster of broken branches near the base of a large oak, disturbed earth freshly turned, and the faint traces of footprints leading off the path. Jake crouched down, examining the marks with keen interest. The prints were irregular, not belonging to any animal native to the region, and the broken branches suggested a hurried passage through the undergrowth. A sense of unease settled in his chest. Something wasn't right. As Jake stood, his gaze swept the forest once more, catching sight of a small movement near the clearing. Squinting against the waning light, he spotted the dog cowering beneath a thicket of brambles. The animal's ribs were clearly visible beneath its patchy fur, and its eyes held a mixture of fear and hope. Jake's heart tightened at the sight. This creature was in trouble, and it needed help. He approached slowly, mindful not to startle the dog. His voice was low and soothing as he knelt a few feet away, extending a hand, palm up. "Hey there, buddy," he murmured. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The dog flinched, but didn't run, its gaze fixed warily on Jake's steady movements. Jake reached into his backpack and pulled out a small package of jerky he always carried for his hikes. Breaking off a piece, he tossed it gently toward the dog. Hunger overcame caution, and the dog crept forward to snatch the treat, its tail giving a tentative wag. Encouraged, Jake settled down on the mossy ground, keeping his posture relaxed, letting the dog grow accustomed to his presence. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. The usual chorus of birds and insects had quieted, as if nature itself was watching this fragile moment of trust unfold. Jake's thoughts drifted to the dog's story. The scars, the fear, the loneliness. Whoever had left this animal here had done so with cruel intent, abandoning it to the mercies of the wild. As the sky darkened, Jake knew he had to act. Silverpine was no place for a defenseless creature, especially one so battered and scared. He resolved to stay with the dog, to keep it safe through the night, and to find help come morning. But even as he made this decision, a nagging feeling tugged at his instincts. This was no random act of cruelty. Something deeper, something dangerous, was lurking in the shadows of the forest. Jake's training kicked in. His senses heightened. He scanned the perimeter, listening for any sign of the men who had abandoned the dog. The forest held only silence, but Jake knew better than to trust it completely. He pulled a small flashlight from his pack and swept its beam across the clearing, examining the disturbed earth and broken branches once more. There were no immediate signs of pursuit, but the hurried footprints and scattered debris told a story of haste and secrecy. The dog, sensing Jake's calm but alert energy, edged closer, resting its weary head on Jake's knee. A faint whimper escaped its throat, a plea for safety and comfort in a world that had been cruel and unkind. Jake reached down, running a hand gently over the dog's matted coat, feeling the bones beneath the thin layer of fur. The dog was starving, dehydrated, and in desperate need of care. "I'm going to take care of you," Jake promised softly. "You're not alone anymore." The night settled around them, a canopy of stars peeking through the branches overhead. The forest, once a place of loneliness for the abandoned dog, now held a glimmer of hope, a chance for survival, for healing, and perhaps for justice. Jake sat quietly, vigilant and ready, as the dog slowly relaxed in his presence, the first flicker of trust sparking in its wary eyes. In that stillness, beneath the ancient pines of Silverpine, a bond was beginning, a bond forged not just by shared survival, but by the unspoken promise that no one would be left behind, no matter how lost or broken. The forest held its breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. The dawn crept softly over Silverpine Forest, the pale light filtering through the tangled branches and casting a gentle glow on the damp earth. Jake Mercer sat beside the clearing, the dog curled up at his feet, breathing steadily now in the safety of his presence. The night had been quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and distant calls of waking birds. The dog, though exhausted, seemed to have found a fragile peace, its body still marked by scars and signs of hardship that told a story of endurance and pain. Jake's eyes traced the faded lines of the dog's fur, patches missing and skin scarred from old wounds. Despite the ragged appearance, there was a fierce resilience in the animal's gaze, an unspoken will to survive that resonated deeply with Jake. He reached out, gently brushing a hand over the dog's head, feeling the coarse fur beneath his fingers. The dog flinched at first, but then settled, leaning into the touch as if recognizing a rare kindness. As the morning sun climbed higher, Jake carefully lifted the dog to his feet. It was clear the animal was weak, its legs trembling under the weight of its battered body. He wrapped a worn scarf from his pack loosely around the dog's neck, a makeshift leash of sorts, and began the slow walk back toward the edge of the forest. The dog followed hesitantly, every step a testament to its determination. On the outskirts of Silverpine, the small town's morning buzz was beginning. Shops opened their doors, the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the crisp air, and locals exchanged greetings as they started their day. Jake's destination was a modest veterinary clinic nestled between a bookstore and a bakery, run by Maya Collins, a wildlife rehabilitator known for her dedication to injured and abandoned animals. Maya was already at work when Jake arrived, her hands deftly tending to a wounded hawk perched on a wooden stand in the back room. She paused as Jake entered, her sharp eyes immediately noticing the dog's state. Without hesitation, she set aside her tools and moved toward him, her expression softening. "Jake, what do you have there?" Maya asked, her voice gentle but tinged with concern. Jake lowered the dog carefully onto the tiled floor. "Found him deep in the forest, near that clearing off Pine Trail. He's in rough shape, malnourished, scared, and covered in scars. Someone abandoned him out there." His tone was steady, but the underlying anger was clear. Maya knelt down, letting the dog sniff her hand. The animal's tail gave a tentative wag, a flicker of trust beginning to form. She examined the wounds closely, old bites, perhaps from other animals, and patches where the fur had been rubbed away from stress or injury. "He's been through a lot," she murmured. "But he's strong. I can help him." Jake nodded, relief washing over him. "I want to make sure he gets the care he needs, and maybe find out who did this." Maya's eyes darkened. Abandoning animals is just the tip of the iceberg. There's been talk around town, strange activity in the forest, people moving at odd hours, suspicious trucks. I've been worried something bigger is happening. Jake's mind sharpened. His instincts told him that the dog's abandonment was no random act, but part of something more sinister. "Have you seen any evidence? Anything that might explain why they'd leave a dog like this?" Maya reached into a cluttered drawer and pulled out a small notebook filled with notes and sketches. She flipped to a page marked with a hastily drawn map of the forest's outskirts. "There's a spot near the old logging road where I've found signs, discarded containers, broken branches, disturbed soil. It's like someone's been using the forest for something illegal. I haven't had the resources to investigate further." Jake studied the map, his fingers tracing the lines. "I noticed some of that on my hike yesterday. Footprints, trash, disturbed earth. Whoever's behind this is trying to cover their tracks." Maya looked up, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to work together. If we can nurse this dog back to health, he might be able to help us. Animals have a way of sensing danger, and he's already shown signs of trust. Maybe he can lead us to the truth." Jake felt a surge of hope. The dog, despite its battered past, was becoming a symbol, a living clue to unraveling the mystery hidden deep within Silver Pine Forest. He crouched next to the animal, who lifted its head weakly, eyes meeting his with a quiet strength. "We'll call him Scout," Jake said softly, "because he's going to help us find what's been hidden." Maya smiled, nodding. "Scout it is." Over the next hours, Maya worked with focused care, cleaning wounds, administering fluids, and offering small bits of food. Scout responded slowly but surely, his body relaxing as nourishment and kindness replaced fear and neglect. Jake stayed close, watching as the dog's eyes brightened and his tail gave more frequent, hopeful wags. As they worked, Maya shared more about her concerns. "I've been trying to get the local authorities interested, but they're stretched thin, and some of the reports I've made haven't gone anywhere. There's talk about illegal logging and maybe even wildlife trafficking. If that's true, the forest, and animals like Scout, are in serious danger." Jake's jaw tightened. "Sounds like we're dealing with more than just a stray dog. This could be a major operation." Maya nodded. "Exactly. And if Scout was abandoned to distract or mislead, it's a cruel tactic. But it might be the break we need." Jake stood, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "I'm going to keep an eye on the forest, look for anything out of place, and you keep Scout safe here." Maya smiled, gratitude evident. "We'll make a good team." As the day wore on, Word of Scout's story began to spread quietly through the town. Neighbors who had once passed by without notice now stopped to ask about the dog's condition, offering supplies and advice. The small community, bound by its love for the forest and its creatures, started to rally quietly around the wounded animal. Jake and Maya's tentative alliance grew stronger with each passing hour, united by a shared sense of purpose. Scout's resilience mirrored their own determination to uncover the truth and protect the fragile balance of Silverpine. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake returned to the forest's edge. He paused, eyes scanning the darkening woods, alert to any sign of movement. Somewhere in the shadows, the men who had left Scout behind were still out there, their secrets buried beneath the towering pines. But Jake was no longer just an observer. With Maya's help and Scout's silent courage, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, determined to bring light to the darkness creeping through Silverpine Forest. The morning light filtered through the clinic's windows, casting soft patterns on the worn wooden floor where Scout lay curled on a thick blanket. The dog's breathing was steady, and his eyes, once clouded with fear, now held a cautious curiosity as he watched Jake and Maya move about the room. His ribs, though still prominent, showed signs of filling out, a testament to the care and patience that had begun to mend the wounds left by neglect. Jake sat nearby, his gaze never straying far from Scout. The bond between them had deepened overnight, forged through quiet moments of trust and shared vulnerability. As he reached into his pack, Jake pulled out a small packet of jerky, breaking off a few pieces to coax Scout closer. The dog approached tentatively, tail wagging in small, hopeful flicks as he accepted the food, inching forward each time until his confidence grew enough to rest his head on Jake's knee. Maya hovered nearby, her keen eyes studying Scout's behavior and physical condition. "He's responding well," she said softly, her voice tinged with relief. "But we need to keep monitoring him. Malnutrition weakens the immune system, and those scars, they tell a story of ongoing abuse." Jake nodded, his mind already piecing together the puzzle. Who would do this? And why leave him out there like that? Maya's expression grew serious. "I've heard rumors. People talking about illegal activity in the forest. Drugs, maybe even more. The dog might have been used as a distraction or even bait." Jake frowned, his eyes narrowing. "That fits with the signs I found yesterday. Discarded items, disturbed earth, footprints that didn't belong to any local wildlife." Maya pulled a small notebook from her jacket pocket, flipping to a page filled with hastily sketched maps and notes. "Look here," she said, pointing to an area near the old logging road. "This is where I found some suspicious containers and broken branches. It's off the beaten path, so whoever's using this area is trying to stay hidden." Jake studied the map, his military training sharpening his focus. "We need to get back there, document everything, and see if we can find more evidence." Maya hesitated, then nodded. "I agree. But we should be careful. If these people are involved in illegal operations, they won't hesitate to protect their secrets." Their plan was simple but risky. Nurse Scout back to health, use the dog's growing trust and instincts to guide them, and uncover the truth behind the shadowy activities in Silverpine Forest. Jake was determined to protect Scout, not just as a victim, but as a key to exposing a deeper threat. Over the next days, Scout's condition improved steadily. Maya's treatment soothed his wounds, and Jake's presence provided a steady comfort. The dog's wary eyes began to soften, and his tail wagged with increasing frequency, a silent testament to his growing hope. One afternoon, as Jake prepared for a hike to survey the forest, Scout stood at the door, ears perked and eyes bright. The dog's energy had returned enough that Jake decided to bring him along, trusting that Scout's instincts might lead them closer to the truth. The forest welcomed them with its familiar scent of pine and earth, the light dappling through the leaves like scattered gold. Jake moved with a practiced ease, every sense alert to the subtle shifts in the environment. Scout trotted beside him, nose to the ground, following invisible trails with a keen determination. As they neared the old logging road, Scout suddenly stopped, ears twitching, body tense. He sniffed the air, then darted into a dense thicket, leading Jake through tangled underbrush and around fallen logs. The dog's movements were purposeful, his focus unbroken. Jake followed, his heart quickening. Scout's behavior told him they were close to something important. Breaking through the last line of bushes, they emerged into a small clearing, the ground littered with discarded plastic containers, broken branches, and traces of recent disturbance. Jake knelt, examining the debris. Among the trash, he found a torn piece of fabric snagged on a branch, matching the colors of the men's clothing he had glimpsed days before. Nearby, the soil was freshly churned, footprints partially obscured but still visible. Heavy boots, moving hurriedly. Scout circled the area, his nose tracing scents invisible to Jake. The dog's focus was unwavering, as if aware of the danger lurking just beyond sight. Jake's mind raced. This was no random dumping ground. It was part of a larger operation, perhaps a drug deal gone wrong or a cover-up of illegal logging. The dog had been left behind, either as a distraction or because those involved no longer needed him. Maya's earlier warnings echoed in his mind. They won't hesitate to protect their secrets. Suddenly, a distant noise cracked through the silence. A truck engine revving, tires crunching over gravel. Jake's pulse quickened as he scanned the tree line. Shadows moved among the trunks, figures emerging from the forest's edge, their faces obscured, but their intent clear. Jake pressed himself against a tree, signaling Scout to stay low. The dog responded instantly, crouching beside him, muscles coiled and ready. The men approached, voices low but urgent, discussing something about clearing the area and getting rid of evidence. Jake's training kicked in. He observed their movements, noting numbers and positioning, committing details to memory. This was a well-organized group, skilled in evading detection. As the men spread out, Jake whispered to Scout, who followed his lead silently. They retreated carefully, leaving the clearing unnoticed, but the weight of the discovery heavy in Jake's mind. Back at the clinic, Jake shared the details with Maya, who listened with growing concern. "This confirms it," she said grimly. "They're operating deep in the forest, using it as a cover for illegal activity. And Scout's presence there wasn't accidental." Jake nodded, determination hardening his gaze. "We need to expose them, to protect the forest, the wildlife, and anyone else they might hurt." Maya looked at Scout, who rested quietly nearby, a living symbol of survival and resilience. "He's more than just a dog now. He's our key to unraveling this." Jake smiled faintly, "And we'll make sure he gets the justice he deserves." As the sun set beyond Silverpine, casting long shadows across the town, Jake and Maya prepared for the challenges ahead. With Scout by their side, they were ready to confront the darkness hiding within the forest, knowing that every step forward was a step toward truth and hope. The forest air was thick with tension as Jake Mercer and Scout moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth of Silverpine. The dog's ears twitched, muscles coiled in readiness, every sense alert to the unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. Jake's years of Navy SEAL training had taught him to remain calm under pressure. And now, that discipline guided his every step as he navigated the twisting trails far beyond the familiar paths. The clearing where Jake had last seen the men remained fresh in his mind. The discarded containers, broken branches, and the scent of human activity still heavy in the air. He knew those men were back, and they were watching. It was only a matter of time before a confrontation became inevitable. But Jake was prepared. His calm, methodical approach was his greatest weapon. Scout padded silently beside him, his nose low to the ground as he followed an invisible trail deeper into the forest. The dog's scars and wary eyes belied a fierce loyalty and a protective instinct that had blossomed in the days since Jake had found him abandoned and broken. Now, Scout was more than a survivor. He was a partner, a guardian of the forest's secrets. Suddenly, a faint rustle echoed through the trees, sharp and deliberate. Jake froze, signaling Scout to stay close. Ahead, two figures emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured by caps and scarves. The men's eyes narrowed as they spotted Jake and the dog, recognition flickering before they exchanged terse words and moved to block their path. Jake's voice was calm but firm. "I'm not here to cause trouble, just looking for answers." One of the men sneered. "Answers will get you hurt round here. Best turn back." The tension in the clearing thickened as the men's bodies shifted, ready to strike. But Jake's training took over, his every muscle tensed, eyes scanning for escape routes and weak points. Scout growled low, placing himself protectively between Jake and the intruders, his hackles raised. Without warning, the men lunged. Jake pivoted smoothly, deflecting the first attack with a swift block and countering with a precise strike that sent his assailant staggering. Scout sprang into action, teeth flashing as he intercepted the second man, snarling and biting to hold him at bay. The struggle was fierce, but brief. Jake's calm under pressure allowed him to control the fight, his movements efficient and measured. The men, caught off guard by his skill and the dog's ferocity, faltered and retreated into the trees, leaving behind a trail of curses and threats. Breathing heavily, Jake crouched beside Scout, who wagged his tail despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "Good boy," Jake murmured, running a hand over the dog's head. "We're not done yet." As the adrenaline faded, Jake's gaze hardened with resolve. The confrontation had confirmed his suspicions. These men were part of a larger operation, and they were dangerous. But their aggression had also revealed a weakness. They underestimated him and Scout. Returning to the clearing, Jake began a careful search, eyes sharp for any clues the men might have left behind. Among the disturbed earth, he found a small, weathered notebook partially buried beneath a broken branch. The cover was stained and torn, but enough was visible to pique his interest. Flipping it open, Jake scanned the pages filled with crude handwriting and hastily drawn maps. There were references to shipments, meeting points, and coded messages hinting at illegal logging and trafficking routes through Silverpine. The notebook was a trove of incriminating evidence, the missing piece that could unravel the entire network. Jake's mind raced with the implications. This wasn't just about abandoned animals or isolated crimes. It was a coordinated effort exploiting the forest and its inhabitants. The notebook was proof, and now it was his responsibility to get it into the right hands. As dusk settled over Silverpine, Jake and Scout made their way back to town, the weight of the day's events pressing heavily on their shoulders. The dog's steps were steady, his eyes bright with the quiet pride of a warrior. Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose swelling within him. Back at the clinic, Maya awaited them, her concern evident as she took in Jake's weary expression and the battered notebook. "Did you find anything?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake nodded, placing the notebook on the table between them. enough to start dismantling whatever is happening out there. But we need to be smart. These people are dangerous and won't hesitate to silence anyone who gets too close. Maya's fingers traced the worn pages, her eyes scanning the notes with growing urgency. This is the break we needed. With this, we can work with the authorities, push for a serious investigation. Jake shook his head. Local law enforcement is limited, and some might be compromised. We'll need outside help, federal authorities or environmental agencies. Maya's gaze hardened. Then we gather more evidence. Scout can help with that. Animals like him have instincts that can lead us to the heart of the operation. Jake looked down at Scout, who met his gaze with unwavering loyalty. You ready for this, boy? Scout responded with a soft bark, as if understanding the gravity of what lay ahead. Over the next days, Jake and Maya devised a plan. Using the notebook as a guide, they would monitor the suspicious areas, document illegal activities, and gather enough proof to bring down the network. Scout, now stronger and more confident, was their silent partner, his keen senses and unspoken courage a beacon in the growing darkness. Jake trained Scout to respond to subtle commands, honing the dog's ability to track and signal danger. Maya coordinated with trusted contacts, quietly spreading word of their mission to allies who could provide support when the time came. Despite the risks, the trio pressed forward, united by a shared commitment to justice and protection. The forest, once a place of fear and abandonment for Scout, was becoming a battleground where hope and courage would fight to reclaim what was lost. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake stood at the edge of the forest, Scout at his side. The notebook's pages fluttered in his hand, a tangible symbol of the battle ahead. The men who had attacked them were still out there, their shadows lingering among the trees. But Jake was no longer alone. With Scout's fierce loyalty and Maya's unwavering support, he was ready to face whatever dangers awaited. The confrontation in the woods had been only the beginning, a turning point that marked the fight to protect Silverpine and expose the darkness threatening to consume it. As the last light faded, Jake's voice was steady with determination. We're coming for you, and this time we're not running. The story of Scout and the shadowy operation unfolding in Silverpine Forest began to ripple beyond the quiet town's borders, sparking a wave of attention that neither Jake Mercer nor Maya Collins had anticipated. What started as a whispered concern among a handful of locals soon blossomed into a wider conversation. Fueled by Maya's thoughtful posts on social media and Jake's careful sharing of their findings with trusted allies. Maya's first post was simple but powerful. A photo of Scout, his fur still patchy, eyes wary but glowing with resilience, accompanied by a brief message about his abandonment and the suspicious activity she and Jake had uncovered in the forest. The post struck a chord, drawing hearts and shares from animal lovers and environmentalists alike. Comments poured in, offers of help, shared stories of similar experiences, and calls for action. Jake, usually guarded and private, found himself surprised by the groundswell of support. Videos taken by local hikers, showing the evidence of illegal dumping and logging, began circulating online. One particularly compelling clip, captured by a travel vlogger who frequented Silverpine's trails, went viral. The camera panning over a clearing littered with debris, the sound of Scout's soft whines in the background, and Jake's quiet narration describing the threat to the forest. The attention forced local authorities to take notice. Detective Rachel Hayes, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for integrity, reached out to Jake and Maya. She had been following the online buzz and was determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. Her involvement marked a turning point, a bridge between community concern and official action. Jake met with Detective Hayes in a small, sunlit cafe near the town square. The air was thick with the aroma of coffee and quiet determination. Rachel slid a folder across the table, filled with reports and preliminary findings gathered by her team. "Your evidence and Scout's story have galvanized public interest," she said. "We're launching a formal investigation." Maya, sitting beside Jake, allowed herself a small smile. "It's been a long time coming. The forest and the animals deserve protection." Rachel nodded. "We'll need your continued cooperation. Surveillance, documentation, anything that can help us build a solid case." Jake glanced at Scout, who rested calmly at his feet, eyes alert. "We're ready." Back in Silverpine, the community's response was swift and tangible. Neighbors organized patrols along forest trails, reporting any suspicious activity. Local businesses donated supplies for Scout's care and for those working to safeguard the woods. The town's collective spirit was ignited by a shared sense of purpose. Meanwhile, Maya's clinic became a hub of activity. Volunteers arrived, offering their time and skills to assist with wildlife rehabilitation and forest monitoring. Scout, once a symbol of abandonment and fear, had become an emblem of hope and resilience. As the investigation deepened, new revelations came to light. The illegal operation extended beyond simple dumping. It involved a network trafficking in endangered species and illicit timber. The stakes were higher than anyone had imagined. Jake and Maya worked closely with law enforcement, guiding patrols to hotspots identified through Scout's keen tracking and their own observations. Each day brought new pieces of the puzzle, each discovery fueling their resolve. One evening, after a long day of surveillance, Jake sat on the porch of Maya's clinic, Scout nestled at his side. The forest beyond was alive with the sounds of twilight, birds settling in, leaves whispering on the breeze. Jake's thoughts lingered on the journey so far. The scared dog abandoned in the woods, the hidden crimes uncovered, and the community rallying together. Maya joined him, handing over a steaming cup of tea. "You've done something incredible," she said softly. "Not just saving Scout, but waking up the town." Jake took a slow sip, feeling the warmth spread through him. "Scout's the real hero. He led us here." Maya smiled, eyes thoughtful. "Sometimes it takes one brave soul to remind a whole community why they fight." As news of the investigation spread, the illegal operators grew desperate. Increased patrols and surveillance made their movements riskier, but their determination to keep control was fierce. Tensions rose, and the forest, once a quiet refuge, became a battleground between those seeking to protect it and those willing to destroy for profit. Yet, through the turmoil, Scout remained steadfast, a living symbol of survival and hope. His presence inspired those around him to stand firm, to believe that justice could prevail. With every social media share, every volunteer patrol, and every piece of evidence gathered, the community's voice grew louder, echoing through the trees and beyond. The story of a dog abandoned but never forgotten had transformed into a movement, a call to protect the wild places and the creatures within them. Jake looked out across the darkening forest, Scout's head resting peacefully on his knee. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with danger and challenges. But the bond between man and dog, the strength of a community awakened, and the relentless pursuit of justice promised that Silverpine's story was far from over. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Jake whispered, "We're just getting started, Scout. This forest is ours to protect, The forest air was thick with anticipation as Jake Mercer met with the local law enforcement officers and a group of environmental activists in the dimly lit community center just outside Silverpine. Maps were spread across folding tables, dotted with colored pins marking suspicious locations, recent sightings, and areas where Scout had led them to clues. The room buzzed with quiet energy. An alliance forged from shared determination to protect the forest and bring the culprits to justice. Detective Rachel Hayes stood at the head of the table, her voice steady as she addressed the group. "We're coordinating a sting operation targeting the core of the illegal activities. Jake and Maya's information, along with Scout's tracking, has pinpointed key locations. This is our chance to dismantle the network." Jake nodded, his gaze sweeping over the assembled faces. Officers ready to enforce the law, activists passionate about the environment, and volunteers committed to the cause. Among them was Maya, who had become a linchpin in the effort, her knowledge of wildlife and the forest invaluable. Scout lay quietly at Jake's feet, his ears perked, sensing the gravity of the moment. The dog's journey from abandoned stray to trusted partner was a testament to resilience, and now he was integral to the mission ahead. The plan was meticulous. Teams would move under cover of night to surveil and intercept the traffickers, using the intel gathered over weeks of observation. Jake's military experience made him a natural leader in the field, coordinating movements and communication. Before setting out, Maya carefully prepared Scout, checking his harness and ensuring he was ready for the long night ahead. Her hands were gentle but firm as she attached a small camera to his collar, a way to capture evidence from the dog's unique perspective. "You're going to be our eyes," she whispered to Scout, who responded with a soft bark, tail wagging slightly as if understanding the importance of his role. As darkness settled over Silverpine, the teams dispersed into the forest. Jake and Scout moved silently along narrow trails, the only sounds their measured footsteps and the occasional rustle of leaves. The forest, once a place of quiet refuge, now felt charged with urgency. Scout led Jake with unwavering focus, nose close to the ground, following faint scents and subtle disturbances invisible to human eyes. They approached a clearing where the faint glow of lanterns marked the traffickers' temporary camp. Jake signaled the nearby team, their figures blending into the shadows as they prepared to move in. The operation was coordinated, precise, every member aware of the risks, but driven by the shared goal of ending the exploitation. Suddenly, Scout stiffened, growling low as he detected movement near the camp's perimeter. Jake's heart pounded as he peered into the darkness, spotting figures emerging from the trees, weapons glinting faintly in the lantern light. The traffickers were alert, their presence more formidable than expected. The air thickened with tension. Jake whispered commands into his radio, coordinating with the teams to encircle the camp. Scout moved ahead, his small camera capturing crucial footage as he navigated the perimeter, sniffing out hidden caches and traps. As the law enforcement officers began their approach, the traffickers realized they were surrounded. Shouts echoed through the clearing, a chaotic scramble as the criminals attempted to flee or resist arrest. Jake and his team moved swiftly, their training and preparation paying off. Scout's keen senses guided officers to concealed compartments filled with illegal timber, cages holding wildlife, and stashes of contraband. The raid was a success, resulting in multiple arrests and the seizure of evidence that would cripple the traffickers' operation. As dawn broke over Silverpine, the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The threat diminished for now. Back at Maya's clinic, Scout was tended to with care, his role in the operation earning him quiet admiration from all who witnessed his bravery. Jake watched as Maya cleaned his paws and checked the camera footage, which revealed the hidden depths of the criminals' network. Maya turned to Jake, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and hope. "We've made a real impact tonight. But this is just the beginning. Jake nodded, running a hand over Scout's head. We'll keep watching. Keep fighting. The community, invigorated by the operation's success, rallied together to support ongoing efforts to protect Silver Pine. Volunteers organized patrols, educational programs were launched, and new policies proposed to safeguard the forest's future. Through it all, Scout remained a symbol of resilience and courage. A reminder that even the smallest among us can lead the way toward justice. As Jake stood at the edge of the forest, Scout by his side, the first light of morning casting long shadows across the trees, he felt a deep sense of purpose. The fight to protect Silver Pine was far from over, but with allies like Maya, Detective Hayes, and the unwavering spirit of the community, hope burned brighter than ever. We're ready, Jake said softly. Whatever comes next. The early morning light filtered softly through the tall pines of Silver Pine Forest, casting long shadows over the winding dirt roads leading to the traffickers' hideout. A convoy of unmarked vehicles rolled quietly through the mist, their engines humming low as they approached the isolated compound hidden deep within the woods. Inside one of the SUVs, Jake Mercer tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his eyes sharp and focused, a man ready to see justice served. Alongside him sat Detective Rachel Hayes, her expression equally resolute. The weeks of careful investigation, surveillance, and evidence gathering had culminated in this moment. The notebook Jake had found, Maya's detailed reports, Scout's tracking, all had built a case strong enough to warrant a full-scale coordinated raid. Behind them, officers from local law enforcement, federal agents, and environmental task force members moved in formation, weapons holstered, but fingers ready on triggers. The tension was palpable. The stakes were high, and the criminals they were about to confront were known to be dangerous and desperate. Scout lay quietly in the back seat, his collar-mounted camera capturing every moment. Despite the gravity of the situation, the dog's calm demeanor was a source of comfort for Jake, an unspoken bond of trust that had formed through trials and quiet victories. As the convoy neared the perimeter of the compound, the vehicles halted behind dense underbrush and fallen logs. Jake and Rachel exchanged a brief nod before stepping out into the cool morning air. The forest was silent, save for the faint chirping of birds and the rustle of leaves. Jake's voice was low but firm as he addressed the assembled team. Remember, safety first. Secure the perimeter, then move in. We want to take them by surprise, quick and clean. The teams fanned out, moving with practiced precision through the woods. Scout led the way alongside Jake, his nose to the ground, ears twitching at every sound. The dog's instincts were invaluable, guiding the officers to concealed entry points and hidden caches. As they reached the compound, the outlines of makeshift structures and guarded fences came into view. Guards patrolled the area, alert but unaware of the impending operation. Jake signaled, and the teams took up positions, ready to breach on his command. With a sharp whistle, the raid commenced. Shouts and commands echoed through the clearing as officers swarmed the compound. The criminals scrambled, caught off guard by the swift and coordinated assault. Jake moved with purpose, clearing rooms and securing suspects. Scout darted through the chaos, alerting officers to hidden compartments and trapped animals. Behind a stack of crates, Jake discovered a cage housing a frightened, injured lynx, a victim of the traffickers' ruthless trade. Maya's voice crackled over the radio, coordinating animal rescue teams to the site. Every corner turned revealed more evidence. Stacks of illegal timber, crates filled with exotic pets, and ledgers detailing transactions and routes. Despite initial resistance, the criminals were overwhelmed. Several were apprehended, their weapons confiscated, their plans foiled. The operation dismantled the heart of the trafficking ring, striking a decisive blow to a network that had operated in the shadows for too long. As the sun climbed higher, the forest seemed to breathe again, its natural rhythms slowly reclaiming the spaces once marred by greed and cruelty. Back at the clinic, Scout received gentle care. Maya examined his paws and cleaned his coat, her hands steady and kind. The footage from Scout's collar was downloaded and reviewed, providing clear visual evidence of the operation's extent and the traffickers' identities. Jake stood beside Maya, watching as the dog rested comfortably, his eyes bright despite the exhaustion. "You did good," Jake said softly, scratching behind Scout's ears. Maya nodded, eyes shining with quiet pride. "He's more than a survivor. He's a hero." The arrests sent shockwaves through Silverpine. News outlets covered the story extensively, highlighting the community's role in uncovering the criminal network and the bravery of those involved. Local officials pledged increased protection for the forest, and new legislation was introduced to prevent similar exploitation in the future. Yet, even amid the triumph, Jake remained vigilant. The fight to protect Silverpine was ongoing, and the scars left by the traffickers' actions would take time to heal. As night fell, Jake sat by the clinic's porch, Scout curled at his feet. The dog's steady breathing was a comforting rhythm in the quiet darkness. Jake's thoughts drifted to the journey that had brought them here. The abandoned dog in the forest clearing, the growing alliance with Maya and the community, the relentless pursuit of justice. Each step had been a battle, but together they had forged a path toward healing. He looked down at Scout, his loyal companion and symbol of resilience. "We've done a lot, buddy, but there's still work to be done." Scout lifted his head, eyes meeting Jake's with a quiet understanding. The road ahead was uncertain, but with courage, vigilance, and the strength of their bond, they would face whatever challenges awaited. The forest around them whispered softly in the night, a promise of renewal and hope, a testament to survival and the enduring spirit of those who fight for what is right. The soft light of early morning filtered through the curtains of Maya's clinic, casting a warm glow over the room where Scout lay curled on a thick blanket. His breathing was even, the tension of recent events slowly fading from his body. The scars that once marred his coat were now healing beneath the careful hands of Maya, who moved with practiced gentleness as she tended to his wounds. Jake Mercer sat nearby, watching the dog with a quiet sense of relief. Scout's journey from abandoned, terrified creature to a symbol of resilience had been arduous. But now, the light of recovery shone clearly in his eyes. The clinic, once a place of urgent care and crisis, had become a sanctuary for healing and hope. Maya looked up from her work, her eyes bright with satisfaction. "He's come a long way, physically and emotionally." Jake nodded, his voice steady but filled with gratitude. "Couldn't have done it without you, and without Scout's strength." Scout lifted his head, ears twitching as if he understood every word. His tail gave a soft wag, a small but powerful sign of trust and connection. Outside, Silverpine Forest stretched vast and green, its ancient trees standing sentinel over the land. The scars left by the traffickers' illegal operations were still visible. Clearings where trees had been felled, disturbed earth where wildlife had been displaced. But the community was already rallying to restore what had been lost. New policies had been enacted, placing stricter protections on the forest and its inhabitants. Local volunteers and conservation groups joined forces to monitor the area, ensuring that the shadows of exploitation would not return. The arrests of the traffickers sent a clear message. Silverpine was under watchful eyes. Jake reflected on the months that had passed, the discovery of Scout, the mounting investigation, the sting operation that had brought justice. Each phase had tested their resolve, but it had also forged bonds that would endure beyond the trials. Scout's place in Jake's life had grown beyond that of a companion. He was a reminder of the power of resilience, the importance of vigilance, and the unbreakable spirit that could emerge even from the darkest moments. As the days turned into weeks, Scout blossomed further, gaining strength and confidence. Maya introduced him to other rescued animals, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Jake began training Scout in new ways, not just for protection, but for companionship and joy. Long hikes through the forest, quiet evenings by the fire, moments of peace that healed wounds unseen. The town of Silverpine embraced the healing journey as well. Community events celebrated the forest's renewal. Educational programs taught children the value of conservation, and neighbors united in shared purpose. One afternoon, as Jake and Scout walked along a familiar trail, the dog bounded ahead, playful and free. Jake's eyes followed him with a smile, the bond between them evident in every step. Stopping at a clearing where sunlight dappled the ground, Jake knelt, running his hands through the soft grass. The forest around them whispered with life. Birds singing, leaves rustling in the breeze, the quiet hum of renewal. Scout returned, nuzzling Jake's hand before settling beside him. The dog's eyes held a depth of understanding, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. Jake's voice was soft but resolute. "We've come a long way, Scout. This forest, this town, our lives, they're healing. But we have to keep watching, keep protecting." Scout's tail thumped against the earth, a steady beat of agreement. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden hues over Silverpine, Jake felt a profound sense of hope. The battle against darkness had been fierce, but the light of resilience and community shone brighter. Scout's story was no longer just one of survival. It was a testament to redemption, healing, and the enduring strength found in connection. Together, they stood in the clearing, guardians of the forest's future, ready to face whatever challenges might come. Their spirits united by the journey they had shared and the promise of brighter days ahead. The first light of dawn spilled gently over Silverpine Forest, casting a soft shimmer on the dew-kissed leaves and awakening the quiet world with a chorus of birdsong. Scout bounded through the underbrush with the freedom of a creature reborn, his once scarred coat now thick and glossy, his movements full of the unbridled joy that comes with survival and renewed life. The forest embraced him, a living testament to resilience and hope. Jake Mercer followed at a steady pace, his eyes never leaving Scout's lively figure as it darted ahead, nose to the ground, searching for familiar scents. The connection between man and dog was palpable, built on trust forged through hardship and healing. Each step they took together was a celebration of the journey that had brought them here. A journey marked by courage, determination, and the unyielding spirit of those who refused to be broken. As Scout paused near a sun-dappled clearing, Jake approached, kneeling beside the dog and running a hand over his warm fur. The forest around them was alive, not just with the sounds of nature, but with the quiet pulse of renewal. Trees stood tall and strong, new growth sprouted where once there had been scars, and the very earth seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Jake's gaze lifted to the horizon, where the sky blushed with the soft hues of morning. Thoughts of the battles fought and victories won swirled in his mind, the dark days when Scout had been abandoned and broken, the tireless efforts to expose the hidden threats lurking in the woods, and the collective will of a community awakened to protect the land they loved. Beside him, Scout lifted his head, eyes meeting Jake's with a depth of understanding that transcended words. The dog's journey was more than survival. It was a testament to the power of compassion and the strength found in connection. Maya's voice echoed in Jake's memory, a reminder of the importance of vigilance and kindness. The clinic where Scout had healed remained a beacon of hope, a place where others like him could find refuge and care. The town of Silverpine had changed too, its residents united by a shared commitment to safeguard the forest and its creatures. Jake rose, feeling the solid earth beneath his feet, a grounding force that steadied his resolve. "We've come a long way, Scout," he whispered, "and there's still work to do. But together, we can face whatever comes." Scout responded with a joyful bark, tail wagging in rhythm with the beating heart of the forest. As the sun climbed higher, casting light over the world they had fought to protect, Jake and Scout moved forward, partners in a story of survival, redemption, and hope. Their footsteps marked a path not just through the woods, but toward a future where the shadows of the past were met with courage and the promise of new beginnings. The forest, once a place of fear and abandonment, now stood as a symbol of resilience and renewal. And in its midst, Jake and Scout carried a message for all who would listen, that even in the darkest times, the strength of the human spirit and the loyalty of a faithful companion could light the way. Together, they disappeared into the embrace of Silverpine, a living testament to the enduring power of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between man and dog.